we get to jumping like crisscross. Feel like I'm Buddy, I'm tryna be the cake boss. Cause I got wild like he fucking with Kate Moss. They wanna sleep with a kid and that's they fault. Ayy, nigga is no taking days off. My competition, I'm gon' knock him way off. Promise I'm going hard, we do not play soft. I can't fuck with you, I'm tryna get plays off.
What's going on? It's your boy Skilly, we back at it. Hey man, took a little hiatus. We back though. Few day break. Can't really explain why, but it just is what it is. This is, I always say it, it's something a little different because it is. And if you hear the noise in the background, that's my air fryer, man. Don't worry about that. I'm finna go to work in a little bit and I got some food. I'm waiting on it, you feel me? This is the serial killer who became a YouTuber. This will be interesting. So let's go ahead and get into it. I don't have that much time.
Let's face it, the world is a cruel, crime-filled place. To try to combat this, there are several laws put in place in an attempt to keep order and justice. For Pedro Rodrigues, who has been dubbed the Brazilian Dexter, the punishment for some were not.
I have not watched Dexter. That's on my watch list. Dexter and Breaking Bad, I have to watch those. People say Breaking Bad is probably one of the best shows, so I'm gonna have to watch it. I tried watching the first episode, I got lost. It was kind of slow and boring, but I'll get into it.
Not severe enough. After being caught for several murders, including that of his own father, Pedro went on to commit the majority of his killings within jail, brutally taking the lives of those he believed to deserve the ultimate sentence. But what makes a man who can kill his own father turn into a vigilante who targets the worst of society? Was this his own sick way of validating murder? Welcome back to Twisted Minds. My name's James, and today we're looking into the case of Pedro Rodrigues Filho, the only serial killer you don't have to be scared of, unless you end up doing something really, really bad. From the day he was born,
This is the name of the channel is called Twisted Minds. I forgot to put that out there. Yeah.
Pedro grew up in a violent home. He was born in the state of Minas Gerais, Brazil, on June 17, 1954, and often found himself on the receiving end of his father's cruelty. In fact, Pedro got his first beating while still in his mother's womb, after he abused her while pregnant. This
It ain't starting off too good for bro.
resulted in Pedro being born with a deformed and damaged skull. Growing up in this toxic and violent environment made Pedro come to believe that being evil was fun, which eventually came to a boiling point when he was just 13. After an argument with his cousin, the teen pushed the older man into a sugarcane press, almost killing him. A year later, Pedro's father...
What? That little old thing that I just seen rolling, bro? Oh, nah, he's a demon.
Father was working as a school guard. One day his father returned home, claiming that the deputy mayor of Alphenus had accused him of stealing food from the canteen. I think this means that he may have eaten a burger or two without paying, opposed to being caught with sloppy joes stuffed in his pockets. Pedro didn't like the idea of his father wrongfully losing his job and decided to do something about it. Taking a gun, Pedro shot the deputy mayor in cold blood and then shot another school guard he believed was the real food thief. When the doctor says eating too much junk food can kill you, I don't think he meant it this way. After the murders, the young teen fled to Mogi das Cruzes, where he raided drug dens and killed sex traffickers. While cleaning...
Wait, who's this Batman ass nigga, bro? Like chill, homie. Like for real, chill, bro.
Cleaning up the streets in his own messed up way, he met a young woman named Maria Olympia, who he soon fell in love with and got engaged to. Not long after that, she would fall pregnant. Now, this could be the perfect ending, right? The killer who tried to make amends for killing a deputy mayor and guard by picking off drug dealers and human traffickers settled down with a wife and baby? Well, unfortunately, we don't do happily ever after endings here on Twisted Minds, and things are about to get much worse. Although Pedro had fallen in love, things weren't peaches and cream. In fact, Maria, who was part of a gang, would ask Pedro to track down and kill enemy gang members. The things we do for love, right? After the targets were hit, the streak of violence against drug gangs slowed down, but they had not forgotten about what the couple had done. One of the drug dealers eventually put a hit out on Maria, killing both her and the unborn baby. This forced an 18-year-old Pedro into hiding again, heartbroken, alone, and seeking revenge. Pedro began torturing drug dealers and gangsters for information, like some sort of cliche movie. He eventually...
Hey man, somebody make a documentary about bro, man, cause I would like to see this in the movie. I ain't even gonna cap, bro.
Found out the gang leader was responsible and launched a daring attack on a wedding party. If the bride was hoping for a white wedding, she was out of luck. Once Pedro and his gang were done, 7 of the gang members were dead, with a further 16 wounded. Surprisingly, the police at the time did not really make any efforts to catch him, as they saw him as a vigilante cleaning up the streets. These are the poverty-ridden streets of...
Hey man, when it's not the U.S. or when it's a third world country or some shit like Brazil, oh my food's done. And when you got a dude that's doing some stuff like this, hey, they might let it slide.
The Brazil we're talking about here.
That was so loud.
In most cases, Pedro targeted all kinds of criminals, finding them by looking up their names and addresses before brutally killing them in a variety of ways. Although he would try any method at least once, his favorite way of murdering people was stabbing them to death or hacking them apart with blades. When confronting robber João da Costa, he crushed...
That's some cartel stuff. 'Cause, God, that's brutal. If you've never heard of this, in the cartels in Colombia, they have a thing called the Colombian necktie. They slice your throat, pull your tongue all the way through, all the way down your throat, bring it down, and stretch it out. It's called a Colombian necktie.
With a blunt weapon, whereas one of his unnamed fellow inmates was decapitated with a knife. In an interview, he stated that if he heard of a crime, he would be spurred on to find and kill the person responsible. Sometimes he would capture criminals and torture them to death whenever he needed to get out some anger, rather than clean up the streets. Months after the wedding massacre, Pedro discovered that his favorite cousin's boyfriend had got her pregnant but refused to marry her. This didn't go down well with the serial killer, vigilante, who didn't hesitate in shooting the man out of anger. As Pedro was going around killing drug gangs, he didn't realize that things at home had gotten even worse. One night, in a drunken rage, his father brutally killed his mother with a machete. As soon as Pedro heard the gruesome news, he did what he did best at. In May 1973, he headed to the jail where his father was being kept, waited till visiting hours, and stabbed him 22 times, right in front of the shocked guards and other prisoners. To make things even more gruesome, he cut out his father's heart and took a bite out of it like it was a jam-filled donut. This obviously led to his arrest, and according to news sources, he even managed to kill another prisoner while being transported to another facility after finding out the man was incarcerated for taking advantage of young girls.
See, in my opinion, there is no worse title than to be a person that likes little kids. You could be a grapist. You can't say that word on YouTube. A graper, let's say that. You could be a killer. Out of those top 3, having the label that you do stuff little kids is worse than out of all of those. Probably. To me. Out of all those labels.
Pedro, who was found guilty and sentenced to 126 years, was sent to one of the most brutal prisons in Brazil, where he immediately proved himself to be among the most ruthless of killers.
He got bodies on bodies.
Within the constraints of the prison, he appointed himself the judge, jury, and executioner of the most evil criminals being held at the prison. He would often torture his victims with whatever weapon he could fashion, often forced to get inventive with his ways of torturing them. His favorite targets were pedophiles and drug dealers. Word got out around the prison that Pedro was a killer who liked to kill other criminals, which caused many of the prisoners, who you have to remember were some of the toughest and worst men around, to be absolutely terrified of him. When a prison gang tried to take him out, It was reported that out of the 5 men who attacked him on the yard, only 2 managed to run away with their lives. After that, no one tried to take him out again. For the crimes committed behind bars, he was sentenced to an increased 400 years. But due to some legal loopholes, Pedro was set for a 2003 release date. Police did manage to stick an extra 4 years on him for bad behavior, but in 2007, Pedro was finally freed, despite killing 47 people while behind bars.
47. Those are all the peds, drug dealers, and all the people he killed out of self-defense. That is insane. I mean, at least he has I don't think no regular person should be just going around doing all that. But he's doing it with at least some good intention. Think of him as the real life Batman, but kills people. Yeah, think about it in that way. I don't like Batman.
You may be asking yourself, how can he be freed after killing so many people? Well, Brazil has a law that means a criminal cannot spend more than 40 years in prison.
Yeah, some places, they don't have life sentences. So yeah, their life is 40 years. That's the max. There's some other places like that too.
Yep, you heard that right. The only time a life sentence can be carried out is for military crimes committed during wartime. Pedro has since become something of a phenomenon for his survival in the harshest regime of a Brazilian prison. As on average, a prisoner will live up to 15 years in prison before being killed by disease or other prisoners. Although this may sound awful, this environment is still rife throughout Brazilian prisons, especially those holding the worst of the worst. After spending 34 years behind bars, Pedro was freed in 2007 and moved to Fortaleza in the Brazilian state of Ceará. However, his past crimes would soon catch up with him, and he was arrested again in 2011 on new accusations of starting riots and false imprisonment. Police arrested the killer at his new rural home, and he spent a further 8 years in prison. This time around, he kept his killer instinct to himself to prevent spending more time than necessary in the cell. While in prison this time, he sent letters to his new girlfriend, who is also serving time for theft. After his release in 2008, Pedro boasted about killing over 100 people, but stressed that they were all bad people who did bad things.
Okay.
In fact, he even went as far as to say that he had done society a favor by killing the scums. The killer now says he is sorry for his crimes and has since converted to Christianity. He has also written an autobiography where he openly talks about his violent past.
If I could find it, I will read it.
Bizarrely, Pedro has since started his own YouTube channel where he posts clips of interviews and talks about his murderous spree. He has currently amassed a subscriber count of 200.
Hey man, clap it up. I'll sub.
52,000.
Sub up. Don't sub up to him. Sub up to me.
With hundreds of people commenting on his videos every day. Can we take a minute to just take that in? One of the worst and notorious serial killers of the 70s now has his own YouTube channel. Don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons. It would be criminal if you didn't. And you know what I like to do to criminals. Behind the YouTube channel is a 30-year-old man called Pablo Silva, who is a YouTuber himself and a longtime friend of the serial killer.
Oh.
He is the one who sets up the video subjects as well as doing other tasks to help Pedro out. For example,
Bro, I would be giving him 75% of the earnings because it's based around his name, his likeness. I'll take a little cut though. He get majority though.
he buys him clothes and takes him to church. When asked
Real nigga. But I bet he don't give him all the money though.
why he helped get Pedro on YouTube, Pablo said, "I had this idea of showing the positive side of Pedro, which many people didn't know. I didn't imagine it would get this far." Pedro Rodriguez Fijo has been described as a psychopath and fits most of the criteria according to psychologists, as he displays a lack of remorse and compassion for those he has brutally killed. With that being said, where Pedro differs is his genuine love for his mother, relatives, and girlfriend, which doesn't completely land him in that category. He was analyzed by psychologists in 1982 and was diagnosed as a paranoid and antisocial character with an overwhelming impulse to act out his own version of justice. It's easy to see the beginning for this serial killer. Growing up in a violent and abusive environment. From a young age, he was taught that the way to keep control of a situation or gain power was to be the most violent person in the room. It was this power he got addicted to, and instead of gaining power the same way his father did, by abusing women, he killed off people he thought deserved to die, in a warped form of protection. How could he feel bad about what he had done when he was only doing it to protect others, right? Also, it's clear that Pedro often acted out of emotion. When his father was fired for stealing, he lashed out. When the gang members killed his fiancée, he lashed out. And when his father killed his mother, he lashed out. It's clear that Pedro was a product of his upbringing, and that his intent to protect others stemmed from the abuse he saw his mother go through at the hands of his father.
Oh yeah, but yeah, he didn't, the first one, yeah, he didn't have to lash out, because I can understand, you know, you're already in poverty, your dad loses his job, you know, somebody else did it, it wasn't him. He didn't have to do that. The other twos are kind of, you might want to kill the person that kills your mom, or kills the person you're finna get married to, and who is also having your child. So, like, you know.
In fact, Pedro was reminded of this abuse every single time he looked in the mirror, as his deformed skull could clearly be seen. Something that was a result of a man beating his pregnant wife. Absolutely despicable. A disturbing fact, especially considering that he is now
such an old man pose. A lot of old men do the little pose, like
free, is that Pedro Rodriguez lands 6th in the list of serial killers with the most confirmed kills. At 71 proven kills, it means that he would have had to have killed multiple people a year from the time of his first kill in 1968.
Being top 10 in a world with almost 10 billion people is crazy.
Since leaving prison, the 67-year-old serial killer has supposedly changed his ways, reaching out to troubled youths in order to keep them away from a life of crime and violence. To some people, Pedro is a hero, and to others, he is no better than the criminals he kills. Despite which side of the fence you stand at, one thing we can all agree on is that the legacy of Pedro Rodriguez Fijo will live on for many years to come. For those who believe that Pedro solely wanted to make the world a better place by taking out the trash, it is worth knowing that he has a tattoo on his left arm that says, "I kill for pleasure." The question is, can a man with 71 confirmed kills and admitting to over 100 really be a changed man? He wanders the streets like everybody else, but more frighteningly, is amassing a huge amount of followers holding on to every last word. Thanks for tuning in to Twist.
Alright, that's the end of the video. How you guys feel about that, man? A Brazilian Batman with no superpowers. I don't think he was really, I'm 50-50. I ain't even gonna lie, bro. I think bro a good dude, but at the same time he shouldn't be, you know what I'm saying? Like 100 is crazy. That's just me. Some people thought Escobar was, you feel me, Superman, you know what I'm saying? There's some people that didn't like Escobar. When you in a less fortunate country, the people who really doing the, you feel me, the people who really doing the stuff is really the heroes, whether you like it or not, to some people. But make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I need to eat and go to work. This video will not go out today. Peace.
Hit up the yo in my gang, yes, with them same niggas. Bitch, cause I tote this gun, nah, I'm not a gang member. Man, I'm off this drug, I don't feel like the same nigga. Me and